All right, welcome back. On the last episode, we had Hermes hooked up to GitHub to be able to create the framework for Next.js. We gave it control to Supabase, and we set up our deployment within our Cloudflare worker. So today, now we're going to check if Hermes has full control over our staging environment. And by full control, I mean it has the ability to, when I request a feature, it can go through the steps, create the tooling for the feature, deploy it, look at logs, and then is able to fix and adjust on that. There's one thing that we'll be going over later on, which is a goal feature where basically you give Hermes a goal and it'll work through it. And I want to make sure it has everything that it needs so that it can go through that goal and then able to look at logs, errors, all that good stuff so that it can fix itself and build on itself. So with that said, let's get started. All right. So first, what I want to do is I want to ask Atlas, what do I need to do to give it access to Cloudflare CLI? So how do I give you access to Cloudflare with scoped terms for CLI? And then it'll give me some it'll break it down for me, and then I'm sure I haven't done this portion before, but we're going to figure it out together. But I'm sure it's going to give me a token that I can put scoped parameters on for what I want to give it access to, and then we'll test. All right, so let's read through this. So already present on the VPS first, then I'll give you the safe scope token setup. I won't print. Okay, Wrangler's not globally installed, but npx Wrangler works and reports version 4.92. Okay. The safest way to give access to Cloudflare scope for stage and worker, then store it on the VPS outside Git. Yep, we know that. Okay. Create a scope Cloudflare API token. So API tokens. So I need to go to, let's bring up, we're going to bring up Cloudflare, and then we got to go to dashboard. Let's do a search, maybe API. Count API tokens. Okay, so create a token. Now, I want to give it scoped permissions. For the first version, I'd make this stage and worker operator access, not full account admin. That's right. Use these permissions. Account settings read. So let's do account settings read. We'll do workers scripts edit. Workers scripts edit. Let's do edit and read. Workers tail read. Okay, if Cloudflare shows workers permission under slightly different labels, the important ones are, okay, we got that. Zone permissions for, okay, so we'll do zone. Okay, so there's no zone. DNS. We'll do read, and read. We don't want the agent to mess with DNS records, but I want it to have visibility so that if it mentions something to me, I can change it. Okay. Scope the resources. So includes what's that? Set your Pixworld Cloudflare account only. When Cloudflare asks for resources, scope the zone resources set to zone only. Okay, we're gonna give this a try. So then I changed the edit this to specify domains, and I was able to go to zones and set the zones to read. So then we're going to review token. Okay, no expiration. Now, for expiration on tokens, it's wise to have expiration. It's just so that like after like if you set it for a month, it'll expire. Then you have to reform a new one. It's just to keep your tokens clean, just in case someone gets access to it. Okay, so we have account settings read, workers script, we have write, and tail we have read, and then the scripts read to, DNS view read, and then the zones. So then we'll create token. Okay, now that we have the token, make sure you save that, put that somewhere safe. We're going to create the directory for this token. So we're going to create this. And then when you list, you'll see that it's now there. So we're going to cd into Cloudflare. And then we're going to create this file, nano. And then you're going to paste all this in here. And then you're going to swap out what your API token is, your account ID, the zone name, and then the worker name. So make sure you look at your zone name and your worker name and then replace all that stuff. And then we'll move on from there and we'll lock it down and all that good stuff. All right, now that that's saved and put in, so let's just go ahead and lock it down. What is this? If ownership needs fixing? No, we don't need to do that. Okay, verify without exposing the token. After saving the file, let's run that. Okay, you are logged in with your account API token associated with account info@pixworld.com. Read from the cloud API token account ID. I'll blur that out. Boom. Okay, cool. So then now that gives Cloudflare access. So what we can do now is I can do a test and make sure that it works for Atlas. Okay, came back. It said that it some of it worked, but there's some visibility that does not work. So some of our permissions aren't correct, or the what we added. So we need this, and these are account level permissions. So I'm wondering, because I have multiple workers and this is under a main account, and I isolated it to my certain one, I'm wondering if I need to do my main account. And so let's go back. Let's go to the tokens. Token. Count API tokens. I don't think we're able to. Oh, can we edit? Okay, sweet. We can edit. So I want to add a policy, entire count, and we need it to have DNS. We want it to read DNS and then worker. Okay, so under when you type workers scripts, we need scripts read and edit. So read and edit, and then tail we need read. Workers routes. I don't see routes. Let's see. It's email routing. Count. Okay, well let's see. I'm gonna update it with that. Review token. Gonna add all that. Update token, and then I'm gonna tell it to redo its test and see what it comes back with. Okay, so it got back to me and it looks like all those settings I just added helped. It does look like it's missing DNS record read. Um, I cannot read individual DNS records. Yes, that is a block for normal app debugging, worker logs, deployments, or staging feature work. But if you want me to verify DNS records directly through the API, the token still needs zone DNS read. Okay, so let's check that out real quick. See if we can edit. I think that would be maybe in this one. Let's do zone DNS. So I have that. Let's check this one. DNS. Read. Okay, that I believe that's it. So it was under my actual buildwithpixel.com, not my main account settings. So first, before deploying, can you test now if you are able to read DNS records? Then we can test a deploy. Okay. So we'll see if that fixes that, and then if that's good, then Hermes has access to Cloudflare, which is great. All right. So now Hermes has access. It can read the DNS records. I'm going to say, okay, run your test and then deploy so we can see if everything works. Maybe for the landing page, you change the words to. Actually, let's just see if everything works. And then we'll go to our worker. All right. So Hermes came back and said everything ran good. So now we have it able to read and verify logs within Cloudflare. So if a build fails, it knows what happened and then can recommit to GitHub, do another deploy, which will activate that deploy. It can look at logs. So later on, whenever we're asking for a feature or anything, we can have it constantly looking at the logs, and we can set up parameters like after 3 tries stop, because you don't want to eat through your tokens. But this is great. We want to be able for Hermes to loop through all this stuff and figure out what's creating problems, but also update everything. So next, we're going to have it check. I want it to have full control over N8N. So I have a bunch of workflows and stuff that I've done on other projects that I'm going to bring in, and these will be tools that Hermes can use. But I want it to be able to build, check logs, figure out what's going on within N8N, so that whenever it sets up automations, it knows how to check and can verify and fix it and move on. So here we'll say, all right, we have Cloudflare. Good. Now we need you to have full access to N8N. What do we what do we need to do to verify and make sure you do? All right, and we'll see what it comes back with and go from there. Okay, so it came back with a bunch of information. It looks like it's halfway there. We just need to give it an API token. So it went through what we already built from a previous episode. It contains basically we need to grab the N8N API key and then do the same thing we did with Cloudflare. Now I forgot what our tunnel was for getting into and opening it locally, so I just asked, hey, what's the SSH tunnel? So I'm going to do that real quick. Now remember, you got to change to your VPS IP. So I'm going to do that real quick. 1 second. We're going to copy this. And then we're going to change that to RIP. And then open it locally with this. And boom. So then log in. Let's see if I remember my passwords. Okay, cool. And remember, we haven't built anything with N8N yet. We will bring in some stuff. I just want to make sure Hermes has access. And then also at some point, I'm probably going to develop a skill where Hermes can learn how to create N8N node structures better and the way that I build them too, so that it's on the same page. Okay, so within here, we want to go to settings and we want to go to API. Yeah, and then create an API key and we'll label it Hermes agent. I'm going to do no expiration. And then I want to give it everything. So we'll do save. I'll hide that. And then you're going to save that. All right, so we have the token. So now we need to go to our VPS machine and we're going to create this file. And let's see if we have N8N. We're going to create this. Now, this other one was for our environment variables for N8N, the app, the web app. So this one we'll do here. Now, put in now this is your local, and then replace your API key with the one that you created. Okay, and then we're going to lock it down. Okay, and then, all right, I added the API key. Can you do a test? And then we'll see what Atlas comes back with. All right, so it came back with the N8N API key. It's able to have access. So right now we have Hermes able to access N8N, Cloudflare, Supabase. So now it's up to, I think we may want to build just like a simple tool server. So my sound went off while I was filming this portion. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm asking, okay, what do I need to do to create this tool server? What kind of code are we going to use? And Hermes comes back, Atlas comes back and says, okay, you need to create the repo, staging, and then have a main branch too for later. But within that staging branch, it will push the initial tool server, and then do checks. And that's essentially your API endpoint for different private utilities that you will use and what Hermes can use. So basically, throughout this little segment here, I create the GitHub repo. So once that repo is created, I can have Hermes populate it with the backend code. And so as you'll see here, I'm just putting in the description and then setting it to private. And then there's no other things I need to change. Create the repo. Now it needs the initial file. So it's telling me like we need to do Python, FastAPI, a lot of this backend coding that will be good for utilities and all that good stuff. So here I just gave him the repository and then I'm saying, hey, I created it. I like the breakdown that you gave me for the type of code that we're creating for the tool server. Let's go ahead. Let's implement these files and then we'll go from there. Okay, so it looks like it created the initial ingest to GitHub for the tool server, which is nice. Let's see what it has to say. Okay, so staging. Let's make sure. Okay, yeah, I'm in staging. We'll have to create a main branch. So new branch, we'll do main. We'll have that there. Okay, so we'll have our staging and our main branch, main for production. And then let's go back. Let's see. Okay, so it's committed. I did not push directly to main. That's right. I use Python, FastAPI, all that good stuff. Created structure, initial endpoints, get health, get version, protected tools, echo and job test, protected routes require bearer, and then the token. Test pass, because the VPS Python install is missing, I ran tests through Docker instead of modifying system packages. Okay, sweet. I created the real secret file here. Permissions, perfect. Variables present. I generated the token, did not print it. Perfect. The file contains this shape. Awesome. Binds to 0, but Docker publishes only on the VPS loopback address. So it's still private only. Okay. Compose deployed. Container pixel tool server status. So if you wanted to check status, you can do Docker PS. And we could see that within here, we have the tool server up and running, which is pretty sweet. So smoke test passed, authenticate protected requests. Current access Atlas can now call tool server or manually. Verdict. All right. Connect N8N to it over the shared network. So N8N. Okay. So go ahead and connect N8N to it. All right. So that's great. So we got the initial build of the tool server, and as you build your infrastructure, you can create tools for the tool server, and that would be something that you would speak to Hermes about. So, like, let's say you wanted something that converts HTML to PDF. You would talk to Hermes. Should I use an API for this, or should we build something with our tool server so that you can call on it, at various points? And so when we get further into Hermes as an agent, it has skills and tools that it can call on, and like APIs over the web or your own personal tools. And then you could develop these skills to be like, oh, okay, I want to use this tool on the web. And then I want to convert it using my tool in our tool server. And you build a skill saying, hey, go here whenever I request this, and then process it, bring it in, then process it with our tool server tool. Yeah. So then I'm going to have Hermes connect N8N, make sure that's all good, and connect it with the tool server. All right. Now, check this out. So as you can see, throughout this, whenever I was saying it needs to connect N8N to the tool server on the same network, it went through, and throughout this process, it ran into issues. And then it was able to look at those issues and figure out, okay, what do I need to check next? What do I need to do next? And it got through and basically was able to connect and test N8N and the internal tool server. So they're on a shared network. So if I go Docker PS, these two, the N8N and tool server will be on that same PixelNet network. And then what you can see here is Atlas created this smoke test. So this test of testing the webhook and calling the tool server, and which is amazing. So that is great. So we went down, it set all that up. So now what we have here is we have our tool server set up, we have N8N set up, we have Cloudflare. It's able to check logs, rebuild in there if necessary. So now we have a full loop. Now I want to implement a tool and have it test it. So let's do that and see what it can make. So for the next episode, what we're going to do is we're going to use Atlas to build our waiting list. We're going to give it the construct of what we want the waiting list landing page to be. Build it, set up the Supabase tables, any N8N automations that need to tie with our tool server. It'll come up with the game plan, and then I'm going to have it do the entire thing. And then from there, once we get a decent waiting list set up, I want to get that out to people online right away. And that's when we get into our last section where we get our main VPS. We get it mimicking our staging environment, and then everything we push GitHub from staging to main, and we lock it in, and everyone could see our initial online platform. All right. Well, thanks for watching this episode, and stay tuned for the next one. Cheers.